Hey everybody, welcome back. So today's video is going to be about how to find a job during a pandemic. As you know, if you watch this channel regularly, I recently changed jobs. I was working at a New York big law firm, and now I'm working in DC at a law firm. I learned a lot of tips along the way. A lot of the tips that I learned, I think, are applicable to anyone that's looking for a job in a virtual environment in any industry, any corporate industry. So let's get to it. One thing that I think is really important, it's probably always been important, but now that you don't really have networking opportunities in person, it's really important to use like your social media networks. So the social media network that I used a lot when I was looking for a job was LinkedIn. I think it's important to turn on post notifications, and it's really, LinkedIn makes it very, very easy. So if you haven't updated your profile in a while, go ahead and like maybe have a recent picture, make sure you have a nice headshot, add all of your work experience, and then go through just jobs on there and set up your alerts. I had alerts for like Washington, DC, and I had the names of a position that I would want. So for example, I had alerts for associate, counsel, special counsel, all kind of things, like even general counsel, even though that's not something that is appropriate for my seniority. I thought it was important to just see like the kind of jobs, companies, firms that are hiring. If you're hiring at the top level, I'm sure you need employees or whatever to kind of support that role. So I had alerts, I had a lot of alerts on. So that's my number one tip. Use your LinkedIn, turn on your post notifications for the kind of job that you want. LinkedIn is also really helpful for actually reaching out to people directly. So not everyone checks their LinkedIn often and not everyone will respond. But when I would see someone who was at a job that didn't necessarily have a position listed, but I thought was really interesting because they were like in the media space or the entertainment space or the tech space, I would just kind of message people and say, hey, I'm looking to transition to DC. If you have 15 or 30 minutes, I would love to chat with you about your experience at insert company, insert firm, or whatever kind of job you're looking for. Most of the times I would get a response, and we would set up a Zoom or we'll set up a call and we would just talk and they would tell me about their experience. And even though I didn't end up going to those jobs, I think that it was helpful for me to kind of build my network. And for me, I think that's something that's particular to my experience because I was looking to get into a new specialty. So I thought it was important to hear about the day-to-day life of people in that specialty and kind of what their transitions were. I was also looking for people who went from New York to DC, like in the legal industry. In whatever industry you're in, you can kind of look for those particularities. So that was an easy connection point. I would connect to someone, I'll message them on LinkedIn and say, hey, I saw that you made a transition from New York to DC. That's a transition that I'm looking to make. Do you have 5 minutes? Would love to talk to you, hear about your experience. And then at the end of the Zoom call, I'll slip in like, if you hear about any opportunities, let me know. So, just like using that social platform to really work for you and to network. Because like I said before, it's one of the only ways to really network today. Like you can't really just go to a networking event. Like there are no in-person events, or at least not that I know of. So using LinkedIn for that is really, really helpful. Second tip that I have is to hit up the career counselors that are in your network. If you went to professional school, if you went to college, like you have a career counsel office that you can kind of reach out to. I suggest reaching out to them. So I reached out to my law school. I reached out to the career counseling. I think they called it alumni counseling, something like that. But it's all similar. And they were really helpful. So the lady that I talked to, she's actually the person that gave me that LinkedIn tip. She directed me to a Columbia Law specific, like, I don't know what you would call it, job portal, where they would post new jobs like every week. And she was like, hey, just check this once a week. So just more resources for me to just see what jobs are out there. She looked over my resume and gave me tips. She looked over my deal sheet. So this is something that's maybe law specific. I don't know about other industries, but some firms that I applied to asked for a deal sheet and just like representative deals, a list of things you worked on, what your tasks were, and like the kind of practice it was. So she looked over mine. Oh, when I started getting interviews, she gave me a practice round of an interview, and that was so important. So even if you don't have a career counseling office that you can rely on, finding someone that you trust or someone in the industry that you're looking to get into that can give you a practice interview, because you might think you know how to interview virtually, but then you actually talk to someone, you realize like, oh, like this room is not that quiet, or I need something with a higher desk so I can be eye level. Just all kind of little things. She was really good at giving me pointers, interview pointers, and I'll get to that. Yeah, she reviewed things for me, and it was helpful. It was helpful. So I definitely recommend that. Next thing I'll recommend, legal specific, but I had recruiters kind of reaching out to me, and maybe it's not, maybe other industries have this too, but I had recruiters that would email me. So I kind of would just file them in a folder in my inbox and not pay too much attention to them. But when there was one that would catch my interest, maybe it was because the opportunities that they listed were aligned with what I wanted, or I just thought their message was engaging, I would kind of like special save that. So I went back and I connected with recruiters that had opportunities that I really liked. And I had one recruiter in particular. She worked at, I want to say My Momentum Search. I'm going to make sure that's true, but she worked at My Momentum Search. I told her exactly what I wanted to do. I told her, this is the city I want to live in. This is the practice area I want to have. This is the type of firm I want to go for. And she came back with a long list of places that some of them were looking to hire, some of them weren't, but she gave me a long list of places. We kind of talked through them together, and you kind of have to, yeah, she was helpful, but you also kind of have to use your discretion when it comes to recruiters, because ultimately they get paid they get a referral fee. They kind of get paid if you accept a job that they offer to you. So I did find that she was really pushing me to stay in big law. So I ultimately didn't go with one of the firms that we like discussed together. But I could tell that was like her push, because I'm assuming that the bigger law firms, the more money they have, and I'm sure the bigger like her referral bonus would be. So they have an agenda, and you're not necessarily their client. The companies or firms that will be paying them are their client. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to be critical. You have to realize, you have to think why are they giving me this advice? But all that aside, she was helpful. She also gave me tips right before my first interview about things to think about. To the extent that you have recruiters reaching out to you, maybe use your discretion, but they can be helpful. Just remember what their role is, remember why they're getting paid, and kind of use your discretion with that. So the last tip I have about finding a job, and then I'm going to get into interview tips. I use the firm I was at, the New York firm I was at, I use their internal alumni resources. And this is where it gets a little bit touchy, because I trusted them, and I kind of met with the lead of alumni services, and I kind of did a temperature check, and I was like, okay. And it was a confidential office within my firm that kind of helps you connect to alumni and other, jobs, I guess. I don't know why that took me so long to figure out that word. But they connect you with alumni of that firm. What career services is to your college or your law school or your professional school, that alumni department played that same role, but for my firm. So I think that they were very, very helpful. And this is something that, of course, you have to use your discretion and really see what it's like at your place of work, if they even have this opportunity, if they have a department like this. But if you have a job that has some kind of alumni services and keeps people who worked there previously somewhat involved in some kind of community, I think they're helpful. And you don't have to necessarily say, hey, I'm trying to leave this job, whatever. But you can say, man, I've really been looking to connect with alumni in this area, in this city, in this industry. Do you have any connections for me? I think it's easier to get a job when you have an internal referral and not a recruiter. I was really, really trying to find some kind of personal connection with the job I wanted and have someone refer me. And that's what happened. Through the alumni department, I told them that, hey, I saw that so-and-so works at this firm in DC, and could you please connect us? Could you do an introduction email so I could connect with them? I just been looking to learn about whatever it was. And they did. They connected me with a woman that works at my current firm through email. I either got on a call or Zoom with her, I can't remember which one, and talked to her about my interest and my time at my current firm and what I'm looking to get out of my next firm. She was like, you sound great, I'd be happy to refer you. And granted, a lot of people get a referral bonus if they refer you, so it's not all altruistic. So all these things, you have to think about all the incentives, you really do. So to the extent that I wanted to get a sense from her of what the firm was like, I took it with a grain of salt, because I knew at the end of the day she was going to be making a lot of money off of me if I chose to join. So, and I think in this environment, probably a lot of companies are doing things like that. She was transparent about it. She said at the end, I've been super honest with you. I want to let you know that if you do accept this offer, I will be getting a referral bonus. And I appreciated that she was honest with me. But anyway, that was the avenue that I really, really was hoping I'd be able to take. So I appreciated the recruiter that worked with me, but I think that it's better to get an internal referral. Companies and firms trust their people, so to have someone that's actually there vouch for you is really important. And with the woman that referred me, I didn't know her. I had never worked with her. It was just one Zoom call that went well. Tried to like use my personality, tried to just be relatable and be personable, and it worked out, and she referred me. So if you have an alumni department, reach out to them. This is something you could do with your school. Maybe you could ask them like, hey, do y'all have a list of alumni that live here? Or do you have a list of alumni that are working in marketing or working in social media or tech, whatever it is? So that was helpful. That was helpful for getting a job. I recommend it because in this virtual environment, it's hard. You have to find ways to connect with people. So anytime you can hop on a Zoom real quick or a call and just kind of show your personality, show your interest, I think it's in your best benefit. So all of that aside, so now you have hopefully one of those things work. LinkedIn or your career services from your college or law school or something, and now you have an interview. How do you interview in a virtual environment? It is different. So I should also say I've interviewed for jobs in a virtual environment, and I've also interviewed candidates. So I kind of know what it's like on both sides. So I'm speaking from experience. It's helpful to have your camera at eye level. So kind of like it is right now with this camera. It's helpful to be eye level. Don't ask me why for all these tips, but these are just things that people told me that I've noticed. So to the extent that you have something to put your camera on, like right now, my camera is on top of an Amazon box and another little box just to make sure that it's eye level. So if you have things around you that can kind of elevate your laptop, try to use that. And it's also important in a virtual environment to keep eye contact. And that's something that's weird because you would know in person, okay, yeah, of course, like I need to keep eye contact to seem trustworthy and confident and all those kind of things. But in the virtual world, it's also important because when you're constantly looking all over your Zoom screen, it makes it seem like you're distracted and you're not paying attention. So even if you're not actually staring at the camera of your laptop, which I think is a little bit weird, pick a spot. If you have your Zoom call set up and you have like the gallery view or something like that, keep looking at one spot, presumably like the person that you're talking to, like their eyes, but it's not going to come off as eye contact like this because you're not looking at the camera of your laptop, but at least you're looking at one consistent spot of your screen. So it gives the illusion that, okay, the other person on the other side of the screen is like, okay, they're looking at me wherever I am on their screen, but they're not like, don't constantly like change the view, like go from gallery view to speaker view to this, and like now your eye is moving because the person on your screen is moving. Not a good idea. Try to have eye contact or virtual version of eye contact as best as you can. Try to have, to the extent that you can, not a loud background. And this is where it gets, so let me take a step back. When I've interviewed people, I don't care about that kind of stuff. Like I wasn't noting that in my notes, and it was actually encouraged. This is at my old firm. We were encouraged not to judge candidates based on the backgrounds of their home, like stupid stuff like whether they're sitting or standing, because we're virtual and people have different home environments. It's not easy, especially if you're living like maybe with your family, like a big family. It's not easy for it to be super quiet, for you to have a blank background. Like a lot of families, I know my family at home, we have stuff hanging up over all over the walls. Like it's not fair to judge someone based off of that. So I'm gonna say that up front. But to the extent that you have control over that. If you don't have control over that, hey, like you don't have control over that. But if you do, if you have a spot in your home or your apartment or wherever you are that's a little bit quieter, that doesn't have a distracting background, so even a background like this would probably work. I kind of use a blank wall background. For some of my interviews, I did them at my brother's house, and he has a home office. So of course, like that's like a perfect setup. I had a completely white background and just me there, eye level, just talking. And yeah, that worked out. So try not to have a distracting background, try not to have so much in the back. But if you can't help it, you can't help it. And hopefully the place that you want to work at is not going to be judging you based off of that. And they'll realize it's a pandemic and people are struggling. but that's just a tip. The other thing, I feel like I don't really have to say this, but try to wear a professional top. Even though it's virtual, you might think like, oh, it's more relaxed. And people in my job at least, or in both of my jobs, my recent job and my current job, people are super relaxed on camera. They have on t-shirts. Just because the interviewer has on a t-shirt doesn't necessarily mean that they want you to have on a t-shirt. So try to look professional, at least from the waist up. I still wore a suit. I don't know if that was helpful or not, but that's just what I'm used to for interviews. So I would have like shorts on the bottom, but I had my like professional top on. So take that as you will. And besides that, just be yourself. Try to be personable. Try and show your interest in the job. Also, try to make sure it's a good job for you. I'm sure that y'all will kill it. Those are all the interview tips / finding a job tips I have for a virtual environment. Good luck if you're on a job search journey. Hopefully this was helpful. I would super appreciate it if you could like this video, comment if you have any questions, and hit that subscribe button. See y'all next time. Bye.